Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fair Director's Tour of Artists Room 1. My name is Nicole Garton, and I'm the Fair Director for the Other Art Fair Los Angeles. As part of the fair's virtual reality edition presented by Saatchi Art, we're thrilled to be presenting over 100 extremely talented, emerging, and independent artists from around the world. All are eager to connect with you about their work. In navigating the fair's three-dimensional virtual environment, you'll be able to discover and learn more about the artworks on view, request a video chat with any artist, save your favorites for easy reference, and make any purchases simply by clicking on the Buy This Artwork link that appears when you click on a particular artwork. That will take you to Saatchi Art's seamless and secure checkout process. If you have any questions about navigating the fair or making a purchase, please don't hesitate to reach out to the fair team. Today, I'm very excited to be introducing to you three artists exhibiting in room 1, Isabel Brink, Lydia Lee, and Masa Mercy. So to start, I want to navigate over to Isabel's booth, and we'll bring her on to start our chat. So let's see here. Here you can see we're in the fair, and you can very easily navigate. So this is this is Isabel's beautiful booth. And let me see if I can get back from a distance so we can see all it together. Hi, Isabel, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you. And we love what you've done with your booth here.
Thank you.
Stand here so we can get a really good view. So to start, I wondered if you could tell us a bit about your background and your journey to becoming the artist you are today.
I've been working in this field for about 20 years. And before that, I was into graphic design. Actually, what I did study in college was graphic design. And I worked in that field for many years. And very successful, but in some moment I was doing art more like as a hobby on the side. I'm talking about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And my profession was graphic design, but I needed to do some real painting, I needed the organic way of communicating visually, and I couldn't do that anymore with graphic design because it turned to be all digital. When I studied graphic design, it was everything was analog. I mean, if you need to work on a logo for a company, for example, you draw everything, you paint with real colors to show a presentation of different proposals. And that got me very feeling boring about my profession, my practice. So I decided to gradually started to focus more on painting, and I started taking different classes, courses, and all of that. And then on 2003, I did a first exhibition in Chile. And right after that, I moved to Miami because family, situations. And I was supposed to live here for 3 years, and I'm already 18 years.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah. So when I moved here, it was a perfect occasion. That was 20 years ago, more or less, 2002, 2003, and that was the perfect situation for me to totally quit graphic design. I never really totally quit it because I do all my own graphic design. I mean, I do it for me. I design my website. I do design my catalogs. Everything that is more like the office part of my work. I do everything.
Yeah. So many artists are really small businesses at the end of the day. You've got, your production of your artwork and then the business side of things. But I
exactly.
want to get into some of the works you've brought here in your booth, which is just really fantastic. Can you tell us with your mixed media pieces? And I believe they're all one of a kind. So can you tell us what inspired this series?
Well, all the series that you see there, like in the middle with the black frames, are the mixed media that you're asking for, no? Because
Yes.
I have because I have two other mixed media that are on right to the left of all that group. Those two, that one and the other one below, those are also mixed media, but are not part of the series that is next to them. So
Got it. Okay.
but I wanted to explain you because at the beginning I was going to show everything from the same series. So that one,
Yeah.
that series. Yeah, if you can show it frontally, is better.
Yeah, let's get over here. There we go.
That's perfect. So that's part of the series of the love poems. Because why do I say part? Because I have two. How many are there now? 10 more? No, 12. And the whole series is made out of 45 different.
Wow.
Okay, they're all one of a kind. They're all one of a kind. And at the beginning, I wanted to do this booth like all the pieces from the same series to show like a project, and then you suggest me or Nicole, I don't remember, suggest me to include the paintings on canvas that I have from other series that is called Oniric. That is my previous. No, it's not previous. They're parallel, but they're different things, totally different things.
We'll talk about those next. Yeah. But tell us, so these are inspired by the Neruda poems, right? Is each poem driving each artwork, or are they kind of collective?
Pablo Neruda is a very famous poet. He won the Nobel Prize. I don't remember when, but these poems were, published in 1926. Okay, and he was only 19 years old, and the poems are about like an imaginary woman that he fell in love with platonically. Okay, he invented in his mind this woman that for him is perfect, like physically and spiritually. So he wrote these poems, and they're very erotic for the time. So it was a little, polemic in that moment. And then after many years, he won the prize, the Nobel Prize. Well, these are what I did here is that I invented this woman like this profile that you see there that repeats is not real. Okay, I invented a woman that for me is like physically perfect, with all the canons of beauty, like the Greek goddess, something like that. And I did it digitally. I mean, that's not a real woman. That's a woman that I made digitally, drawing, okay, but digitally. And then my real paintings that I have all myself, because my painting is very introspective. I speak about what I feel, not what I see. I speak about my interior world. What I do is that, like, I go to the seed when I paint. I go inside. I go looking for the subconscious. I like messages in dreams. That is my, like, what I do with my art. So what I did is all my paintings that were made manually. Okay, first those paintings that I made manually, I digitalized. How do you say digitalized all those images and incorporated in in the face, in the profile of this perfect woman that I invented digitally. And then I paint over that.
I see.
Then
So let's zoom into one of these so we can talk us through what we're looking at. Is this a good one for us to look at? You can kind of explain the process.
Yeah, okay. As I told you, first I have I make a painting. I make a painting, let's say acrylic on canvas, okay? It's a small painting. I take a picture of that painting. And digitally, I include that painting with this face of this woman that I created digitally, okay? So I have a manual work first because I have to make a painting. Then I have the digital work. I incorporate the painting to the digital image of the woman. And then when I have that result that is printed only one time, that's why they're all one of a kind. I paint over that and finish the work with the pencil, color pencils, and acrylic.
Wow.
Yeah. Did I explain it?
Yeah, these are fantastic.
So all of them, every of them is a different poem. I don't remember which is which. It's 20 poems. The name of the book is 20 Poems and a Song of Despair, that the famous love poems of Neruda.
Lovely.
So this is everything about love and what I feel, and with this year of the woman, because now we are in the year of the woman. So I didn't think of that because I started this series last year, and that is what I was going to show when the fair was postponed. I had all these, yeah. So now I don't know. I'm thinking, what can I bring? Because you mentioned that it was better that I also included these paintings on canvas that I have that are from another series.
Do you want to tell us a bit about this one? I think just it definitely reflects your painting and the way that you pursue the automatic drawing. Do you want to talk a bit about this process?
Okay, yeah, this painting is from the series Oniric, related to dreams. Is about expressing, starting like intuitively, I don't know how to pronounce that word, in an intuitive way, practicing with the automatic drawing. And where is the automatic drawing? It's the exercise that surrealistics used to do, back far away. And so they make their hand move without an intention and without a previous idea of what you want to express. It's like letting go. It's like randomly move the hand on a surface and just let it go. Just let it go. And you see, it's like similar to that thing that we all tend to do when we are on the phone and we have a pen and a paper on the side and you start like doodling. Is something similar. It's like doodle. It's drawing without intention. So in that way, can I show you something? Can I? Yeah, because I have it right here. It's all these drawings are made like, okay, that way, okay, with the automatic drawing that I was explaining you, without thinking. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. And then that's like the unconscious part of the process. And then rationally, unconsciously, and with the purpose of creating an artwork, I pick that images, I projected them in the canvas, I draw them again in a big surface, because the drawing is this size and the painting is huge. That painting is 84 by 57.
Wow, yeah.
So that's when I start doing the artwork now in a rational way and a conscious way, mainly through color, mainly through color. So the color process is rational and with a purpose, and the drawing part is using the automatic drawing.
I think your color play across, these series, certainly you're bringing in your color awareness around complementary colors, but it's also very joyful and jubilant. Do you find that, inspired by love? And I think in some of your other oniric series, you were creating characters who you kind of said were these creatures who are maybe not so beautiful or they're deformed, but there's a real tenderness around them. So I think, can you speak a bit about how you express through the color what you're trying to convey?
I've always loved color, always, all my life. I mean, when I was a little girl, I liked to dress with fluorescent pink pants. Okay, that is like, you see the fluorescent pink there? That was the color that I liked to use when I was, I don't know, girl, teenager. I think since I express very transparently and honestly who I am and what I think, how do I think life should be lived, it takes from me what I am. And I am a very happy person. I am a very optimistic person. I know how to struggle with my, challenges in a very fancy way.
Well, the joy comes through, and it's really such a pleasure getting to hear more about your process and your inspirations. And certainly these are a real joy to see. And I encourage everyone to click on each one because you've included a lot of detail about the poetry behind each piece.
Yeah, and you can read the poem. And actually, I also made like a little book to bring to the fair. I printed a book, a small book, and I don't know, I was thinking that give it to people who is going to buy the art. I can, complimentary give the book because the book has all the poems and the 20 poems with the images of the paintings and also with the images of the artwork that was made before.
So this is really great, Isabel. Thank you for sharing everything in terms of your inspiration and how you came to develop your really unique process. I think these are also lovely, and we're really excited to have you part of the fair. So thank you, Isabel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to navigate to Lydia Lee's booth. Let me just pull this up here. Here's Lydia. Okay, Lydia, if you want to turn on your camera and join us, we'll take a look at your booth here. Hi, Lydia.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Great to have you on. So before we begin getting into your artwork specifically, do you want to tell us a bit about your background and your journey as an artist? How did you come to be where you are today?
Yeah, since I was a child, I was very curious to see something drawn on blank paper. And I like to draw someone I know. And I'm used to growing up in Korea, in a place surrounded by beautiful mountains, and I enjoy it quietly. So in this aspect, my natural curiosity and comfortable environment make me an artist.
So naturally observing the world around you just inspired you and wanted you to create and be part of that. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Your works are really, hallmarks of your style are their color and then your gestural marks. And I've noticed that a lot of your work tend to have titles from classical music. Are you listening to music while you speak or while you paint, or where do the titles come from?
Mhm. Yeah, music must be in my life. And however, I start painting and listen to the music when I get certain flow. The title is the music I listen to while I drawing, while I painting. And when I am immersed in the flow of music, and I do so, I listen music and find it and automatically paint it with the flow music.
I
So
love
I
it.
like Beethoven as a classical musician, and I Prokofiev as a modern musician, and like
Mhm.
their tension and grandeur.
The grandeur, yeah. I think you've described your work as very fundamentally related to the Baroque. And I feel like the gestures and like the movement that comes across and your use of color, there is a lot of grandeur, as you say. And some of this, I think you've spoken about how you're looking to the natural environment from your travels, whether it was through America or the Mediterranean, but then also the built environment around where you live. So, can you speak to sort of how these structures, whether organic or man made, kind of figure into your work?
Yeah, the big and colorful and solemn atmosphere fits me. And then I studied the structure that each perfect part is gathered to make up the whole, not to focus on one place. I think one of the characteristic of Baroque art is the flatness, which I was influenced by the decorativeness. When I look at the exaggerated forms shown in Baroque art, I feel the bravery and humor of human beings, just like an oversized object sometimes have fun. I get curious when I see the expression of overused muscles or strong shadows.
These are so fantastic.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about your use of color? I noticed you use a lot of blues and yellows and purples. Do these signify certain emotions or memories for you? Is there one that you want to speak to in further depth? I can take you to a different one.
Mhm. Yeah, one day I draw on that day that conditions in my stomach and my mood determine
Mhm.
from the choosing what color to squeeze on my palette. I let everything go according to my mood and just throw it without expectation. Then I imagine going on a trip to a town, to a city, and let the color next to it determine and the next color I choose.
Wow, I love it. So you're kind of going on a journey, and the painting is a bit of a chronicle of your state of mind or your physical presence that day. It's kind of checking in with yourself and documenting it through color and gesture.
Thank you.
Fascinating. Um, do you want to talk a bit about how your travels relate to your painting, and sort of is this influencing different color combinations or different mark makings? How does travel play into your work?
I was inspired by very deep and spacious space, and I was admired by the pure colors of nature radiated by the light. In my painting, I tried to express it as a continuous movement. I want to keep feeling it. I keep playing some of the most beautiful moments into my paintings because of my desire for happiness. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, and what do you think, or what do you hope that people come away with after seeing your works? I think certainly the emotion and the joy and the exuberance of the color comes through. Is there something that you hope that the viewer feels as well?
Yeah, right. In my painting, my various emotions and experiences are embedded in color, but I want to hide my personal stories. So hope to seeing in the color, the flow. I hope the viewer jump in my painting and play with their own senses and experiences. And also I hope don't think too much. Yeah.
So just see it and let it wash over you and kind of explore what you find, you know, in each painting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Well, and I think that's a great reminder to all of us is as you're going through the fair, just see what attracts you, what draws your interest naturally, and have fun exploring. And there's really so much here to discover and fall in love with. So now we are in front of Kirstine Anderson's booth, and I want to invite Kirstine to join. Hi, Kirstine, how are you?
Hi.
So I love how you've laid out your booth here. It's really original and different from anyone else in the fair. So congratulations on, you know, standing out and being so vibrant.
Good.
Before we get into the specific works that you brought, I wanted to give you a chance to share about your background and sort of your journey to becoming an artist.
Okay. Well, it's a long journey. So as a child, I was always making and doing things. We were a maker family. So I learned how to sew and do all kinds of things from a very early age. And fast forward to art school, my BFA is in textile and surface design, which probably explains a lot of what you see in my art. They're almost like tapestries in a way. After that, I became a stylist for a carpet mill. So I was the person who chose all the colorways in those big carpet books that you see in the store. And then a long gap, as often happens in people's lives. I returned back to the arts and as a decorative artist years later. And then I did a stint as a scenic artist also. So I worked as a scenic and did large projects for a entertainment construction company. So we did sound stages for Sony and Disney and things like that. That was super fun. That was super fun. And then when that was over, I started a paint contracting company that had decorative painting in addition to the scope of regular painting. And I had a crew and many women on my workforce. And I formed an empowerment and enrichment program for women in the job site. So I worked in construction for quite some time with my company.
Wow.
And I did a lot of mural work during that time. So the decorative division of my company was still very much active. But I did a lot of representational work. And then very recently, I would say 2.5, 3 years ago, I quieted all that down and really got back to my fine art roots. And this is what you see. So this is a culmination of many iterations and lots of time on the road of life.
Gosh, and what a rich life it's been. And it comes through. I think, you know, you can see some of the figurative elements, even though they read as abstract, there's definitely, you know, organic textures and the color palettes and things. So I can't wait to dive into all of this specifically. I wanted to ask you too, obviously, you know, in the building world, everything kind of starts with a blueprint. So I'm wondering how much or to what extent do you plan each piece's sort of composition and color in advance, or is there any sort of spontaneity, or how do you balance those two?
Well, it's so, when I read this, it's so interesting. It's like blueprints. I know how to read a blueprint. And I was in the building world, but it's really a lot of both. So I will start very intuitively and it's a very physical process. I'll start by just putting myself over the entire canvas in some way, with marks, with I'll go off the canvas and come back onto the canvas and just make a huge gesture to get it rolling. And there, on some of these, I actually pre-chose a palette. On the one to the far left, has the golds and that one, I actually pre-chose a palette and kept it limited to 3, and then all of the rest of the tones and shades came from those 3. But the rest of them really just evolved. They really evolved with, I'm going to add a little of this, and suddenly I was going down the road of that. And then, as with all of us as artists, there are the foundational principles that we always go back to, like composition and lights and darks, and so adding those into the mix, the pieces began to emerge, and that's kind of how they do it. I like to introduce. I like the play of sharp lines and organic lines. They're my little ode to the framing of a house. So that appears in almost everything I do. There's that one has, off to the upper left there, and then there are also some hidden in the background. And the gold piece has some on the far right. So it's almost like a little signature. I always throw that into some of the pieces, to everything that I do. So
mixing some planning, some intention, and then little signatures of the hard edges. But the play of the organic with the inorganic, it's really evident and beautiful the way you've combined them. Do you want to walk us through any particular ones to kind of introduce what you're exploring?
So currently I'm exploring, like the one just in front of us there and the one just to the right of it. You'll notice there's several canvases and planes that kind of fly off the main one, and they actually sit proud of the surface as much as 6 inches in real life. So they stick way out. And I was beginning to explore just bringing the viewer's eye out of the picture plane, completely out of the picture plane, and then bringing it back in again, almost like kind of like visually flying without a net, like not staying within the square, but going out of the square, and then you're hanging in midair for a moment, but then you come back. And I was exploring that at the edges, but also coming forward from the surface out, and combining that with abstract marks and color. And so I'm just at the beginning stages of this idea right now, and that piece there is the largest one that I've done. I did a lot of small ones like that. The one just to the right is another version. The one that we just left is on birch ply, so it's on 3/8 inch plywood. But this one here is on canvases, so there's 1.5 inch canvases, so it has a lot more structure and girth, if you will. So, and I'm starting to explore just more organic shapes and what that will do. So, but the main premise is make you go outside of the line and come back in.
I love that. It's fun because you're definitely sort of playing with the idea of what is the picture plane, what's, inbounds, out of bounds, and then what happens if you just, combine and stack things, or just completely separate them from even being connected. I love this. This is really fun.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to ask you, for the ones that are composed of more than one piece, such as these, are you, when it comes time to, someone maybe buying them, are you inviting them to kind of place them differently, or is this kind of the composition as you see it, or does it kind of continue on up to however anyone would eventually hang it?
Well, they are on an armature, so they are composed, and they can be taken apart, but they go back together just as we see them here. The ones that are loose or float at the top could be placed differently if the viewer or the owner wanted to do so. And I have actually toyed with the idea of composing pieces that can be kind of like a Rubik's Cube in a way, like you can kind of put it any way you want and always have a new piece. So there's a mechanical portion to that, which is, again, we're back to the planning versus the intuitive.
Mm.
That there's more planning to really make that work. And then there's another challenge for me as an artist is to how to plan and not have it be so planned, have it be
Mm.
intuitive yet planned, right?
Love that. Yeah, exactly. Where else are you looking for inspiration? I mean, obviously you must have a back catalog in your mind of so many different projects you've been a part of, whether they be in construction or film. But are you finding that you're drawn to similar textures or color palettes or combinations of colors again and again, or are you always kind of up for trying new things? Where are you finding inspiration?
Well, you'll probably notice that there are two up there on that wall that have very similar palettes. So I found myself, and I finished the one that had multiple panels long after this one that we're looking at here. And then it was kind of like, oh, here, they're kind of the same. But
You mean
and I
this
am drawn to these, the blues and greens. I always kind of go back to that. And I make an effort to veer off and see what'll happen. So that was what happened with the other one, with the one underpass, the one that has the gray and the graffiti.
Is that this one?
I made a decision to not use blue and just go up. This one actually has concrete in it. It has glass and concrete.
Oh wow.
So, which is hard to see in the photo, but when it's lit, you can see all of that. So yes, I am drawn to certain palettes, the blues, the greens, the combination of the golds with the blues, and I try to break that reflex as often as I can.
I can. I'm attesting to definitely a preference for the turquoises. I'm wondering, you're based in the desert now, is that right? Do you think
Yes.
it's a bit of there isn't much of that color in the desert, so maybe it's kind of like you're introducing it, or how do you think your surroundings come into play, if at all?
I'd never thought of it that way, but there could very well be a subliminal aspect to this. But I am just naturally drawn to these shades, and yeah, I never thought of that. Maybe it's just a reflexive action to the heat that we have here. It's just make really cool paintings, temperature cool, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're just stunning. And yeah, the textures and the way you've composed them, it's so interesting. I definitely encourage everyone to come give your booth a visit and, come check them out and zoom in, get really close in on these. I wonder, before we wrap up, if there's anything you want people to walk away with or come away feeling when they see your work.
I want them to get up close, and I want them to be immersed in the texture and the color that I've portrayed here, because there's a lot to see, and it's immersive and it's joyous, and I just want people to be like, enter it and be washed over with it and feel good about it.
Oh, well, that's lovely. And I'm feeling it right now. So thank you so much for sharing your insights with us into these works. And thank you to everyone who's spoken with us today. So everyone, come check out these artists. Okay, now I'm gonna click over to Masa's room, magically jumping time and space. Okay, let me get situated over here. All right, Masa, if you want to join and turn on your video, we can talk about what your works are on view in the fair. Hi, Masa.
Hi.
How are you? Thanks for joining.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Very excited about the fair and seeing, all the wonderful booths everyone has put together. And I'm so excited for people to discover your collection of portraits here. It's so neat to see them all together at once. So I've taken kind of a faraway view of this so people can get a sense of the collection altogether. But before we get into your artworks, I wanted to give you a chance to tell people about your background and kind of how you came to be an artist.
Sure, yes. I was born in Iran, in Tehran. The capital city is Tehran. And at first I can say my works are very sexual, and I use lots of sexual part of body. For from male and female in my paintings in Iran. And when collectors and curators came to my studio, they told me, you cannot show this in Iran. What do you want to do? But I continued my way because I didn't want to change my subject. And I started to do something else. You know, this limitation and restriction lead me to make the metaphor of this sexuality and sexual atmosphere. And it was very fun. When I want to tell you that in 2017, I had a group show in Tehran, and one girl came to my to my gallery, and she saw my works, and she told me, I thought I entered to the sex shop, but I didn't show anything. You know, I just painted some legs. Like I used hands, sculptures, nails, fur, mirrors, these things as a metaphor of this subject. But it was very fun. And then in these years, I understood my sexuality very late, and because of the, you know, I think that limitation and restrictions and taboos and culture and religious everything lead me to understand very late of my sexuality. And then I understood all of these things. It was very strange. And then I thought my subconscious lead me to work on this subject. And then when I understood my sexuality, I understand why I'm doing all of these things. And then in 2019, I had my solo show in my country, and it was the first time in the history of Iran to have an exhibition to work on the gender and sexuality. And my gallerist told me, I support you, and don't panic. I want to show your works. And it was really good. And then I thought I have to immigrate to free country, to Canada, to pursue my career, to work on all of the thing and all of the ideas I want to show. And then I immigrate to Canada.
Oh, wow. What a literal and, you know, so many facets to your journey. So, wow. Thank you for going through and explaining all that to us. Obviously, in Iran, you had faced some restrictions in terms of what you could depict in your canvases or sculptures. And I kind of wanted to ask you, how did things suddenly change for you once you were in Canada? Did you find that your interest or your approach to how you're depicting, whether it was sexuality or portraiture, did it suddenly shift because now you could be more free in how you express those, or how did your artwork change?
Yes, actually, when I was in Iran, I worked very metaphorically. But when I came here, I worked very directly and straightforward, as you can see in the portraits or in the sculptures. And I like to show the community, the LGBTQIA plus community, to show the beauty, the between from the masculinity to femininity, from the harshness to softness. And I really like to show the spectrum, you know, the beauty and the diversity of this spectrum. And because of this, I titled this works in between. And you know, I think all of these portraits show the individual, but when you see all of these things together, you can see the community, the beauty of them, the trauma, the their job, their feelings in their eyes. All of these portraits, you know, I worked on small canvases, and I have the purpose of that because I want the audience to come closer and explore the paintings and this character and this personality, because in real world, maybe people don't want to come closer as much as I want, or maybe this community wants. But I painted with oil color on small canvases to invite the audience to come closer. and see the portraits, explore the portraits, the personality, and have the intimacy atmosphere between the portraits, between the subject and the um, audience. And I like to break the distance between the artworks and the audience, you know, just come closer and see that person.
I love that. Yeah. So is each of these works, they're all roughly about 8 by 10 inches. Is that right?
Yes.
So they're fairly small, which, as you say, they're highly detailed. And so in order to, you know, take in all of the details and the sort of personality elements that you include, people really have to get quite close to them. Certainly the texture there is drawing them in as well. So I'm going to click on this so that we can go into the Saatchi art collection. So here we're inside your collection where each of the works is individually listed. So do you want to, let's go through and you can pull out a few of these, because I think what's so interesting about this series is you, as you say, you're exploring a spectrum of people across the LGBTQIA plus community, but they're, each person is an individual. And so you've sort of imbued them with their own personality, maybe their own job, their own values or trauma history. So are there a few favorites that you want us to kind of focus on? You can tell us about some of these.
You know, some of them are my friends and some of them are, you know, I become their friends and they become my friends. And when I wanted to paint them, I started to have a conversation with them and we shared our experience together. And then I started to paint. And when I started to paint all of these portraits, I stared at the mirror for 10 or 15 minutes at myself and to reflect my own personality with this portrait. You know, I really like to add my concerns, my you know, all of the things in my, because I have the same feelings from all of these people. I know what the restriction means. I know how hard to suppress yourself in any country, and I like to mix these two feelings together and reflect it in their portraits. And at first I tried to title them the, every portraits with their names, but they told me we are not very you know, comfortable. So just I started to write like a gay with yellow wig or a drag queen with, you know. So I don't know if I pick them how they feel, maybe you know what I mean. But yes, but I have the uh, I have the idea to talk about with some of them that they are more comfortable and make this the artist book to share our stories together and then publish that with some of them that they are comfortable with.
I see. Yeah. So these are not just inventions from your imagination. These are people that you know and that you're really telling their stories. And of course, I think one of the things that we had talked about earlier was when you're inviting people, you know, viewers in to see these portraits, the small scale, the highly detailed, highly impasto texture, it's all to kind of not only bring them closer, but the texture is almost, you're rendering them a bit in a sculpture as a way, so that you're really trying to focus on, you know, making it feel like these are real people. And, you know, part of it is to help recognize their humanity, which is, of course, not a universal thing that's accepted. So I wondered if you could talk a bit about like what you hope people feel, you know, when they're seeing this collection.
Sure, yes. You know, when I started to paint these portraits, I'm looking for something like, how can I show, you know, I always like the between of everything that I told you before. And I wanted to show how can I paint that as a picture, as a photo, as a painting, and but people can feel them, that they are real. So I started to use lots of colors on that, on the paintings, on the portraits. And if audience come closer, they can see that their nose, their hair, their clothes, their jewelries are all comes out of the canvas. And it is kind of the metaphor for me that they are not just like a picture or documentaries or in social medias. They are in the real life. They are in the real world. Maybe you can see them in the university, in office, in party, in everywhere, or maybe they are at your home, but they are scared to talk about their identity, their sexuality, their gender. So it is kind of like the metaphor of that, to have between 2D and 3D of these paintings. And the most thing that I really like from the audience is that come closer, see these people and explore them and love them, you know. As you can see from, for example, you can see this sculpture. I call this "Let Me Grow," and I have the idea that all of this community comes from the nature. And because of this, I put this portrait on the stone, and I have the kind of like, I don't know the name of it, but the kind of this grass, the dried grass.
Oh, like moss?
Yes, thank you. And then I put the head on it to show the audience that it comes from the nature. And I call it "Let Me Grow," to just tell the audience and people, let this community grow and accept them more and more in the world.
Oh, well, it's so fascinating to hear your thoughts on this. And certainly, I think a lot of people are going to be really excited to see this broad spectrum and, recognizing all the beauty that you've put on display here. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And everyone should definitely come check out your booth, zoom in, and hopefully we'll be having our live fair very soon so you can really get up close and personal. But thank you so much, Masa. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for these talks today. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy exploring the fair.